Hello and a very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. I'm Dasni Atali for News First, and let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Losses caused to the EPF by investing in various companies revealed at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry. Activists question if the government's decision to restrict imports is justifiable. Constitutional Council dysfunctional due to delay in filling vacant positions. Entire village in Pandala suffers from cancer.
The Employees Provident Fund, a boon for the working people of Sri Lanka, has sustained major losses due to investments in the various businesses in the recent past. The Presidential Commission of Inquiry into large-scale corruption at Sri Lankan Airlines brought to light shocking revelations on misdealings with the resources of the Employment Provident Fund, also known as the EPF.
A senior official at the EPF testified before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry today. She revealed that the EPF had invested a sum of 495 million rupees in Cargill's bank, which was established recently. It was revealed before the Commission that the EPF is yet to receive any dividends as a result of this investment. There has also been no return on an injection of 5 billion rupees into Canville Holdings. While 4 persons, including the former President's Chief of Staff, Gamini Senarat, and Piyadasa Kudabalage, served as directors of Canville Holdings, they are currently facing legal action over irregularities in the Hyatt Hotel project. Investigations have revealed that the money illegally invested from the EPF into Canville Holdings had then been defrauded by funneling it into a different company. It was also revealed today that EPF funds had been invested into 2 more hotel projects, with the EPF yet to receive any dividends from these investments. Testimony by senior officials of the Employees Provident Fund revealed that a sum of rupees 500 million belonging to the EPF had been invested in Sri Lankan Airlines in the year 2010, when Emirates withdrew from managing the airline. The senior EPF official who testified today noted that this was in violation of procedure, as the exiting regulations dictated the EPF funds could only be invested in listed companies on the Colombo Stock Exchange. While approval must be sought from the central bank governor for any investment outside these regulations, it was revealed that such approval had not been granted. The governor of the central bank at the time was Ajit Niwad Cabral. It was also revealed that as per the central bank, the notational value of the rupees 500 million investment in Sri Lankan Airlines is now a mere 100 rupees.
Information came to light a few weeks ago regarding an alleged plot to assassinate the president and the former defense secretary. Allegations were levelled at the DIG in charge of the Terrorism Investigation Division, Nalaka de Silva, while at the same time the media reported on the IGP's involvement in alleged financial fraud. While the IGP's visit to Scotland was cancelled by the Prime Minister, the DIG was initially transferred and subsequently interdicted. This series of incidents transpired while the former president and a Sri Lankan parliamentary delegation were concluding a visit to India. While politicos from across the divide have shown a great deal of interest in these incidents, is the government showing sufficient concern when it comes to almost daily incidents of gun violence in the streets, resulting in the deaths of ordinary people? A 40-year-old woman was shot dead last afternoon in the Valje area in Kapuwatta, Gale. The woman was shot while travelling in a car from her home to the Gale town. Her 8-year-old daughter was in the car with her when the gunman opened fire. Police suspect that she was not the target of the shooting. The Gale police station is located a mere 2 kilometers from where the shooting took place. A CCTV camera in the vicinity captured this footage of the suspects fleeing the scene in a motor vehicle. The remains of the victim were to be brought to her home tonight.
No, no one has been arrested so far. The IGP ordered the DIG in charge of the northern part of the Western Province to conduct the investigation directly under his purview. I cannot state anything as these things have not been revealed from the investigation. We need to do an investigation. You cannot say that this was a mistake, because although this was a mistake, killing a person is not a mistake. We are carrying out an investigation to find out the reason behind this.
Meanwhile, 2 men were shot to death inside a home in Rattotavilla, Uragasmang, Handya last night. The deceased have been identified as 30-year-old former soldier Saman Suresh and his friend Chamila Deepal, who is reportedly a former sailor. Suresh had been decapitated post-mortem and his head had been dumped about 200 meters away from the house.
2015 11 වෙනි මාසේ 3 වෙනිදා මේ පුද්ගලයාගේ සහෝදර වෙඩි තියනවා බයික් එකේ යද්දි. ඊට පස්සේ වෙඩි තිබ්බ සැකකරුව 2015 12 වෙනි මාසේ 3 වෙනිදා බෙල්ල කපලා ගෙනත් තියනවා ඔය හන්දියෙම. දැන් මේ සම්බන්ධව දැන් දිගින් දිගට මේක එකක් නෙමෙයි දෙකක් පොලිසිය අරන් තියෙන ක්‍රියාමාර්ග මොනවද ඒ වගේම يعني නිරන්තරයෙන් විමසීමක් කරොත් කියන විමර්ශන කරනවා කියලා. හැබැයි දැන් 3 දෙනෙක් මේ වෙනකොට ඝාතනය වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ විමර්ශනවල තත්ත්වය කුමක්ද? දෙපිරිසක් අතර මේ දෙපැත්ත.
Certain revelations were made during the investigations about a dispute between two parties. The suspects have also been identified. We are hoping to arrest those suspects as soon as possible. Also, court proceedings are underway with regard to the previous cases. There were murder and smuggling cases on both sides.
ස්කෑම් කිහිපයක් තියෙනවා දෙපැත්තටම. අර ප්‍රශ්නේ සම්බන්ධවම උරගස්මන් දැන් මේක 2015 දී දැන් මේ අත්අඩංගුවට ගත්ත පුද්ගලයන් අපිට ඉන්නවද එළියේ නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්
I will have to check on the situation. Someone who was arrested in 2015 can most probably be released on bail. A suspect is usually granted bail. That is a provision of law.
5 murders have been reported in the past 24 hours, while 3 of these involved the use of firearms. The police have as yet been unable to apprehend or even identify the perpetrators of these crimes. The Sri Lanka police is entrusted with the duty of upholding law and order in the country. Identifying suspects after a crime is committed and enforcing the law against them is the duty of the police by the citizens of this country. While several incidents have been reported in the recent past where unidentified gunmen have shot dead people in broad daylight, the law has been lethargic to say the least when it comes to enforcement. Delays in serving justice have a severe impact on good governance and democracy. The government must take responsibility for this. However, what has transpired? Many of these crimes and murders can be traced back to a clandestine nexus between the underworld, drug smugglers, politicians and certain businessmen. Security forces have been left impotent in dealing with these criminals because they operate with the blessings of politicians. Shootings in broad daylight and brutal murders are being normalized in the country's news cycle. If public representatives elected by the people's vote work to strengthen and ensure the independence of law enforcement and provide correct leadership for them, dealing with the underworld and these criminals will not be a challenge for the police and security forces who were able to defeat one of the most ruthless terrorist outfits in the world. For the attention of the people.
Commander of Sri Lanka Army Lieutenant General Mahesh Senanayake said the army is ready to eradicate the drug menace from the country.
We have experienced several disastrous situations in the country, and one of those is the drug menace. Although it is not very noticeable, the Sri Lankan army has already intervened into this. Our intelligence unit is strong and it has a wider network inside and outside the country. We provide the information we collect to the Sri Lankan police. Discussions are underway as to what other measures the Sri Lankan army can take. We have held several rounds of discussions and the government is hoping to give the Sri Lanka army the legal right to intervene into this. We also hope that the necessary steps will be taken. If it happens, the Sri Lanka army will be committed to eradicate the drug menace from the country.
Farmers in many paddy growing areas are facing hardships due to insufficient rainfall. This is the village of Ambagaswava in Nochiagama, Anuradhapura. These farmers have been unable to cultivate thousands of acres of paddy fields for 2 seasons due to the shortage in rainfall. While the farmers have turned to alternate crops like kurakang, undu and corn, these crops too are failing due to the prolonged drought. Meanwhile, a large swathe of paddy fields in the Polonnaruwa district, which were cultivated under minor irrigation schemes, have wilted away. While the farmers were initially able to plant after a lapse of 4 seasons, the insufficient rain has resulted in the near-ripe paddy stalks drying up. The agrarian community here, which has been mired in debt as a result of loans taken to cultivate the fields, says they have also not received any kind of compensation for their destroyed crops.
The people were left helpless.
We have pawned jewellery to settle our debts.
The crops that were cultivated for 75 acres were destroyed. It has been 2 to 3 weeks since the authorities filled insurance forms. We did not receive a response yet.
Across the country for the Yalla season, 705,370 farmers have cultivated paddy fields spanning a total area of 1,103,862 acres. Government statistics indicate that 140,000 acres of these paddy fields have dried up. The Paddy Marketing Board believes that while the expected harvest this year is 1.4 million metric tons, this may grow to a surplus.
If you take the statistics being presented by the government at present, while the data relating to the land and the number of farmers is true, we cannot accept the data they are putting forward regarding the harvest. The drought has had an impact, especially this Yalla season. Also, because we walk in the fields with the farmers and get our data and information directly from them, we know that a great deal of harm has been caused to paddy fields by pest infestations. There has been a massive crop damage in the Polonnaruwa, Kurunegala and Hambantota districts and the eastern province. Over 30,000 acres in Polonnaruwa have been infested by pests. We can show you entire fields in the Kurunegala district where we will not be able to extract even a grain of rice. In this environment, I do not believe that we can hope for the expected harvest.
Railway fares have been increased by 15% effective today. Meanwhile, the prices of several other goods and services were increased last week, parallel to the rise in crude oil prices.
In the year ranging from September 2017 to September 2018, the price of a litre of petrol has been increased by 32 rupees, the price of a litre of diesel by 28 rupees and the price of a litre of kerosene by 26 rupees. The price of a domestic gas cylinder has increased by more than 400 rupees during this period. While energy prices are increasing, the public are also facing rising costs in food and essential services like transportation. When the International Monetary Fund approved a $1.5 billion extended fund facility for the country, it was decided that the funds would be released in tranches, subject to the progress of economic reforms. Prior to releasing the fourth tranche of the EMF, the IMF reiterated the need for an automatic fuel pricing formula. The release of the fourth tranche of the loan was delayed due to delays in introducing the price formula, and the funds were eventually released shortly after the fuel pricing formula was introduced. While the IMF concluded its progress review ahead of the release of the fifth tranche of the loan last week, the IMF expressed appreciation over the implementation of the fuel pricing formula. While fuel prices are calculated on the 10th of each month, the following statement made recently by the finance minister is a good indicator of which way prices are headed this month. As a result of serious crisis between America and Iran, the price of oil had increased to $81 a barrel yesterday. The price formula will activate on the 10th. We were saying that as a government we do not need to pass on the total burden of this. We face a series of challenges while doing all of this. Following the collapse of the rupee against the dollar, will fuel prices be increased to cover the rising cost of importing oil? Or will oil prices be increased to mitigate the losses incurred by Sepetco, citing continuous calls from the IMF for state-owned enterprises to be profitable? These formulas should be introduced at a level suitable to Sri Lanka and not based on the demands of the IMF. We stopped this when they tried to do it once before. We stopped it because it was not suitable for the country. Certain economists opine that the collapse of the rupee may also be caused by the unsuitable demands of the IMF. In this backdrop, the public are concerned about the government's enthusiasm or lack thereof to attract the investment. While a complaint was made recently to the president that a certain subject minister had demanded a kickback from a European investor seeking to introduce a high-powered train engine and carriage manufacturing business in Sri Lanka, it does not appear that this is being investigated. Anyone with a basic understanding of economics knows that the manufacturing base needs to be broadened with greater foreign direct investment in order to spur economic growth and strengthen dollar revenues. However, these incidents ensure that investor confidence remains low. When investments do not come here, The burdening of the people through various formulas cannot be prevented.
The Government Medical Officers Association convened a media briefing today.
From the government's point of view, the key way of coming out of this economic crisis is to restrict the imports. On Saturday, the Finance Ministry announced to the public how this would be done. When one looks at the press release issued by them, at first glance it appears people-friendly. At the top it says issuing of vehicle permits to members of parliament will be suspended for a period of 1 year. There are 225 parliamentarians. All 225 of them have already taken vehicle permits for their respective terms. 227 vehicle permits have been issued. I state this with responsibility. When there are 225 MPs, 2 additional permits have been issued. You must question how 2 additional permits were issued. More than 100 of those permits have been sold. When we have a look at the list, at the top is Minister Mangala Samaravira, who issued the press release. According to media reports, the loss to the country from this is about 7 billion rupees. The government has taken strict decisions after all this had happened.
Popular singer and comedian Ronnie Leech passed away this morning in Perth, Sydney. He died of cardiac arrest while touring in Australia and was 65 years old at the time of his demise.
Born on the 19th of October 1953 in Dehiwala, the late Ronnie Leech was a father of 2. He made his debut in the music industry in 1972 with a performance band and later attracted audiences in Sri Lanka through his love for Western music. Taking a bold step in his music career, Leech toured overseas for the first time in 1986 with the Superstars. Ronnie Leech, who was talented in both singing and acting, made his debut in cinema in 1983 in the Athin Athara movie. He contributed towards a number of cinematic productions during his career, including Cherio Darling, Unna Babo, Magodi Gudai, Etumai Metumai, and My Name is Bandhu, and he was well known as a comedian. In 1989, Ronnie Leech made a new entry to the hearts of his fans through the song Tattaya, which he performed on the invitation of Sunil Pereira and Piyal Pereira of the Gypsies.
Tattaya, mama lassana tattaya, kage tonda mitraya, kawurud danna.
He also touched the hearts of children in Sri Lanka through the Poddange Weda program, which was aired on Sirasa TV. The mortal remains of the late Ronnie Leech have been placed at a morgue in Perth Hospital and will be brought to the country following a post-mortem examination.
The locals residing in several villages in Pannala live in fear due to the increase in the recorded number of cancer patients in the area. According to the villagers, over the past 6 months alone, there was a rise in the number of cancer-related deaths in the locality.
The Newsfirst team visited the Kakillapitiya Grama Seva division in the Pannala Divisional Secretariat area with the objective of finding out the reason for the series of unfortunate deaths in the area. This is the public cemetery of a tiny village called Jayasirigama. For the past 6 months, almost all those buried here died from one disease. Newsfirst is here to ascertain the reason why people from Jayasirigama and 3 surrounding villages are dying of cancer. At the Jayasirigama Public Cemetery in Kakillapitiya, many freshly dug graves can be witnessed. This grave belongs to our neighbor Shanti. This grave belongs to my uncle. Buried here is Asiri. It's been 3 months since he passed away. These deaths took place months apart. Newsfirst went in search of the Grama Nilladhari officer for the area, hoping to get details of those who died of cancer and those who are diagnosed with cancer. Sadly, the 37-year-old brother of the Grama Nilladhari officer had also met the same fate.
Over the past 4 to 5 years, 2 to 3 people died of cancer. But inside the last 2 years, 5 people died of cancer every 2 months. People are living in fear because deaths are now being reported every month. There are no early warnings to identify the disease as well.
Our inquiries led us to understand that patients died 3 months after the disease is identified.
කාටවත් තේරුමක් උනේ නැහැ මේක පිළිකාවක් කියලා දන්නේ නැහනේ. සෙන්ගෙඩි කියා හුඟ කල් හිටියා.
During our visit to the village, we received word of a small child who is believed to have shown signs of a rapid increase in cancer cells. The child had attended the preschool in the village.
This child used to come to our preschool. At times there is an increase in cancer cells in the body.
When we spoke to a young lady diagnosed with cancer, it was revealed that her brother and father fell victim to this disease as well.
ඔව් එයාගේ බෙල්ලේ තමයි ඉස්සල්ලාම ආවේ. අවසානට පිළිකාවක් කියලා ගත්තා ඊට පස්සේ.
ඒතර වගේ තාත්තා නැතිද කොහොමද?
තාත්තා නැති වුණේ ඒත් එයාගේ තුවාල ආවා. ඒ වුණාට අවසානට මේ මරණ සාතිකේ ආවේ පිළිකාවක්.
It must be noted the disease has spread to various organs of the body. According to the date of the Divisional Secretariat, 283 people have obtained relief assistance provided for cancer.
Patients are reported from Mahallava, Thalam Mahara, Upper Kotuwela and surrounding areas as well.
Many of the villagers are Samurdhi beneficiaries and they survive with the greatest difficulty of bearing the costs to identify the disease early. When we look at the data and statistics, it is clear a majority of deaths are due to cancer. When we look at numbers, it could be higher because when you look at the rate the disease is spreading, the time has come to focus more on this division.
President Maithripala Sirisena says all should direct their attention towards the rights and privileges of children as well as the challenges faced by the younger generations. The head of state was speaking at the Balapitiya Revatha National School today. The new technology laboratory and new building for the secondary and primary grade laboratories constructed under the Langama Pasala Huntama Pasala program was declared open by President Maithripala Sirisena today. President Sirisena also graced the school prize giving today and presented awards to students who performed exceptionally well.
All responsible state rulers and responsible personnel at state institutions, teachers, parents and everyone else must focus on the issues of the children, not only in Sri Lanka but all over the world. There is an issue as to how safe children are when they are with their parents. Some issues are physical and some issues are psychological. Children face various other issues as well. It is expected from all in society to show love towards children. Let's leave aside the positions of President, Prime Minister, government heads, the principal and all others. There are two positions above them all, and that is the mother and father. The love, care, affection, respect and acceptance given to the children from the mother and father cannot be given by another. Because the children are the future, it is the responsibility of teachers and parents and everyone else to ensure that children have a clean and spiritual mindset, and we must be committed towards that.
State Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva says the challenge ahead is with regard to the aging population and the rising burden of non-communicable diseases.
The primary healthcare system in this country is pretty decent, I would think, and particularly in comparison with this region. But something that we've been unable to tackle, today being Children's Day, is malnutrition among children. Of course, the new challenges are the aging population and the rising burden of non-communicable diseases, particularly in this case high blood pressure. So we are spending about, our budgets are not that big, but we are spending over $1 billion next year in this country on healthcare, slightly around 1.5% of GDP. The second thing is in making essential medicines more affordable.
The Policy Forum on Hypertension and Cardiometabolic Diseases and its impact on health systems in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan and regional countries was held today. It was organized by the University of Kelaniya Medical Faculty and Duke NUS Graduate Medical School in Singapore to find solutions to the prevailing problem of non-communicable diseases in Sri Lanka.
And two national surveys have suggested that the prevalence of hypertension is anything between 25 to 28%. So technically 1 in 4, 1 in 3 of us would be suffering from high blood pressure. It is in this context that we initiated this trial, 850 people altogether in very rural communities in the Putlam district and similar rural populations in Bangladesh and Pakistan. In comparison to the other two countries, the Sri Lankan cohort of 850 people were been followed up, 80% of them had hypertension at baseline, especially diabetes and chronic kidney disease. Funnily, they had access to medicine. They had access to medicine free of charge. And that is the problem, in my opinion.
A large number of houses were seriously damaged from gale winds that swept across the Arnamadua area in Chilau. District Assistant Director of the Disaster Management Centre, AMR Alhakun, said several trees had uprooted in a manner in which roads were obstructed. He added restoration work had commenced in the respective areas. The Met Department says due to the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka, prevailing showery conditions is expected to enhance over the island particularly. Former cricketer T.M. Dilshan has expressed his disappointment regarding instructions given by the SLC to national cricketers, declaring that they should avoid the Mercantile Cricket Tournament ahead of the England tour.
When we used to play for the national team, we would travel from the airport straight to play in mercantile cricket matches. This is because the mercantile tournament is a very good tournament. I would say that this is a tournament even better than the provincial tournament. A lot of good players aren't playing this tournament. When I ask why, they say that they have been asked to avoid the tournament because of potential injuries. Some players coming for training bowl just 10 or 15 balls. I don't know why this has happened. Practice is important as well. Rather than just going for training, getting match practice is very important at this stage. It is an opportunity for batsmen who are out of form to come into form ahead of the England tour. I don't know who is doing this. Even players prefer if the management asks them not to play. They are used to shortcuts.
The
England cricket team arrived in the country today for the series against Sri Lanka.
The England tour of Sri Lanka comprises 5 one-day internationals, a single T20 international and 3 test matches. A group of English cricketers arrived in the country early this morning while the rest landed in the evening. The first one-day international between Sri Lanka and England will be played at the Rangiri Dambulu International Cricket Stadium on the 10th and the single T20 will be played on the 27th. The 3-match test series will begin on the 6th of November. Sirasa TV and TV1 of the MTV-MBC networks are the official broadcasters of the tour.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Dasniya Powder. Good night.